Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Ball Cap Bible Study. Here we are, Monday, July 1st. Can you believe that? Wow, we're in July. I don't know about where you are, but it's been really hot here in Oklahoma. Yesterday, we got a little reprieve. It only got to 94, 95, but that can be sweltering. It's really humid here, so we'll just pray that it cools off a little bit. We need some rain. We've been down this year in Oklahoma. I'm Wade Cruz, pastor of senior adults at Quail Springs Baptist Church. Uh, my my sister sent me a shirt. I'll have to wear it sometime, but you can tell when somebody loves you. She sent me this shirt and it says "World's okayest pastor." So that's kind of what I am. I'm just okay. But I'm rocking the Under Armour flag hat today because it's July 1st. And as I said last couple of times, we're in that patriotic season. And today I wanted to focus on our nation. As we think, I mean, obviously we're coming up on Independence Day. And in the Declaration of Independence, it talks about um, nature and nature's God, and in the course of human events, and that we're all created, uh, equal, the same, and that means the same God. And so there is a creator, and we all bleed red. And, it doesn't matter race, gender, male or female. There's only, sorry, I'm just, um, there's no lesser image of God that anyone was created in. Nobody is superior in formation. Uh, now equal doesn't mean sameness. We're all equal, but we're not all the same, and that's good. I You wouldn't want a bunch of me walking around. You want different than you. You want different than me. You want different than this. Variety makes life wonderful. Well, even beyond that, let's talk about the nation. Obviously, we've got some challenges. It's the best way to put that. We need some help. Um, we need help beyond ourselves. And so I want to talk about that. Where do we turn for help? Well, if you know me and if you have been listening to this very much, we turn to God. Um, the Bible tells us God is our helper. His mighty arm helps us and takes care of us. I got can you see? Here we go. I got the grenade going. And sometimes God needs to blow things up. We can talk about that's kind of deeper theology stuff. Oh, there. Oh, my wife just walked in. I'm doing ball cap Bible study, honey. Just letting you know. You don't have to leave. Oh, okay. She's out walking, so that'll come across funny on the thing. So in real famous verse, Second Chronicles chapter 7, that many of you have probably heard before, but and you're going to see the tablecloth come into because it looks a lot like my shirt to the camera. Sorry. Uh, but anyway, Second Chronicles chapter 7 talks about our land getting healed. And that's what we need. We need the great physician, both physically, spiritually, you know, um, I was going to say politically, but it really needs to be administrative. Um, we can talk about the theology of politics later, not in this lesson. But here I want you. So this, as it leads up to the famous verse, it's really talking about a lot of people kind of just grab it, apply it. Some people even out of context. But here's the thing: it all relates back to church. This is the part of the Bible where Solomon has built the temple and they consecrated it, and they're kind of telling God, they're saying, "Here, God, we built this for you. We want you with us." Um, I want you to see. We'll start with verse 11. We'll get down to 14, 15. But I just want you to apply this with the right kind of brush. Apply this with um, you in mind. You, your house, your family, your community, and then go nationwide with it. Think about those concentric circles that just build out. Here we go. Ready? Thus Solomon finished the house of the Lord and the king's palace and successfully completed all that he had planned on doing in the house of the Lord and in his palace. So a lot of people miss that. He's built the temple, but he's also built his house. Do you see what I'm saying? He built the temple. Today we'd call it our church. Built it out nice, beautiful, worthy of, honoring God. But he built his house. Your house, my house, should be worthy of honoring God. He built the king's palace, right? Your home is your castle. Is God welcome there? Is God honored there? Is it as honorable as the church? All right. Then the Lord appeared to Solomon at night and said to him, I have heard your prayers, and I have chosen this place for myself as a house of sacrifice, the temple. But is it a sacrifice? Is any part of what we do at church sacrificial? I don't mean killing lambs and birds and stuff. I mean personally. Do we tithe cheerfully and sacrificially? Do some of us even give it all? But most people tend to give out of their leftovers. They pay all the bills and they do all their discretionary spending and they have all their fun. If there's anything left over, God can have that. Well, that's backwards. God said to give out of your first fruits, right? I mean, when I say backwards, literally, what's the reverse of God? The opposite of God is DOG. And guess what? That's who's supposed to get leftovers, the dog, not the God. So is any part of how we honor God sacrificial? So he says, as a house of sacrifice. And then he says, verse 13, and this is kind of a rhetorical comment God's making, because if I shut up the heavens so that there's no rain, like what's going on in Oklahoma right now, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, and if my people who are called by my name, this is God telling us how he wants us to, requires us to, needs us to, desires us to, how we ought to respond to adversity. So he's like, you know what? If there's a drought, if there's pestilence, if there's a pandemic, if there's a whatever, we don't see locusts in this country, but if there's a tornado, if there's a hurricane, if there's a whatever, he said, and then if my people humble themselves and pray. So there's four things I want you to see that are going to be here. Four things. Humble themselves. You see how that's the priority? It's kind of weird. You would think it would be if they would pray and then do these other things. Humble themselves first. Man, pride, we get arrogant because we get well, so to speak. I mean, we prosper and then we forget about God. We turn our back on him. We're like, I got this. I did this. Wow. Look what I did. There's a big warning and here's your homework. Read Deuteronomy chapter 8, all of it. There's a big warning about that. So humility, what does that mean? What did Jesus say about the rich young ruler? Same thing, that prosperity, I don't need God stuff. Easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Now, is that literal? Well, so there's a traditional description about one of the gates in the wall around Jerusalem. It was small. It was called the eye of a needle. And for people to get their camels through there, the camel had to get down on its knees and duck its head and kind of scooch through there. I don't know how true that is, but that sure gives a visual description of our attitude towards God, doesn't it? To be humble, So if my people who are called by my name, so think about that. Are you God's person? Are you his man, his woman? Would anybody look at you and say, there goes one of God's kids? Are you called by his name? You know, is it clear and obvious that you're a believer? If my people who are called by my name, to be called by his name is to be now called Christian, little Christ. You know, is that obvious? Is that stamped on the forehead? Do people see that by how we treat them? Are we walking testimonies? Sorry, got to preaching. If my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray, okay, so first of all, there's the definition. We're his people called by his name. Humble ourselves, pray. You know what prayer is. And it shouldn't just be for asking for stuff you want, right? I mean, are you praying for others? Are you praying for peace? Are you confessing sins? Are you repenting? Are you praising God? Are you giving him honor and glory and credit? Okay. We define who we are. If my people who are called by my name, so that's got to be clear and obvious to others. Humble themselves. We talked about that. Pray. Seek his face. That one's the big one. I mean, I say the big one. It's bigger than people think. All too often, we're like, God, what do you got in your hand? Or like when grandpa used to come over and you check his pockets for candy or whatever. We're always seeking what he has for us instead of his glory, his face. Seek his face, not his hand. You seek his face, he'll open his hand. It's kind of like giving. It's tithing. It's not about how much, it's about how. When we get the how right, the much will follow. Wow. So they humble themselves, they pray, seek his face, turn from their wicked ways. Wow, we did a whole series on the Ten Commandments. Turn from their wicked ways. That's really important. Stop, turn around, head back towards God. We could spend an hour listing off the wickedness of this country. Yeah, you know what's going on. But anyway, besides that, God gave me a little saying yesterday. I was pondering, meditating, whatever you want to call it, on some verses and then my mind wandered to, what do people need to hear at a funeral? Because I do several a month, several. You've probably heard me say this before, but I'm to the point where I've done over 340 funerals. But I was thinking one thing that I think people need to hear at a funeral is don't worry about how much you're going to make. Worry about how you're going to make much. Like, how are you going to make much of your community? How are you going to make much of your church? How are you going to make much of your home, of your children? How are you going to make much of your reach spiritually to people? So don't worry about how much you're going to make. Worry about how you're going to make much. All right, here we go. The wrap up. If my people who are called by my name humble themselves, pray, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then, so understand this whole thing with God is an if-then relationship. He's got all the right to define things. Everything's in the Bible is an if-then. If you'll do this, then you get this. Guess what? If you don't do this, you don't get this. I mean, it works the same way. If we don't do these 4 things, he's not going to do what he says next. He says, then I will hear from heaven. So he'll hear if you've got to pray in that humble manner, right? Turn from your wicked ways. Seek his face. Then I will hear from heaven, will forgive their sin and heal their land. So the opportunity is not gone. The door's not closed. But there ought to be, based on this verse, There ought to be this shockwave that emanates from your community because everybody hit their knees at the same time. Now it gets really cool. For now I have chosen and consecrated this house, that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart will be there perpetually. As for you, if you walk before me as your father David walked, even to do according all that I have commanded you, and will keep my statutes and my ordinances, then I will establish your royal throne, as I covenanted with your father David, saying, you shall not lack a man to be ruler in Israel. Okay, so a lot going on there, but I hope you see the if-then statements. I hope you see all the stuff that God wants, those 4 things: humble yourself, pray, seek his face, turn from your wicked ways. And it starts here, starts in the heart, then it builds out. The heart, the home, the house of God, the community, the state, the nation. All right. Happy 4th of July. God bless America. See you next week.